I made a huge mistake. That's how I usually learn. It just cements into my head and I feel the pain and I don't want to feel that pain again, but usually there's still repercussions. Sometimes things just don't turn out right, you know? And I just freaking pay for it. I don't know. Sometimes I will just like kick myself in the butt because it's like, why the hell did I do this? Some things are just so bad. I'm in my backyard. It's looking really lovely. Do you see the rose? The yellow rose? It's still blooming. And then my nasturtium is blooming too. This is an edible flower. You can also eat the leaves. They're really spicy. And you can pickle the seed pods too. They kind of taste like capers. I wanted to share with you guys a big mistake that I made in my garden. And I'm sharing this because I hope that it will prevent you from making the same mistake. I really regret this and I'm going to handle it today. But first, I wanted to show you my harvest, red Russian kale. And then I have this lettuce that is called Red Cross. And then I have a lot of French breakfast radishes. Really happy about this harvest, but it's kind of bittersweet. So what is this mistake that I made in my garden? So you guys know that blackberry is like one of the most aggressive plants. When you go out on the trails, you're gonna see a lot of blackberry that is just out of control. And a lot of times the park rangers or volunteer folks, groups, are always wrangling that. But it's so hard to control because it is a very successful, tough crop and it multiplies in a lot of different ways, particularly underground runners. It also multiplies from overhead runners. Blackberries are very aggressive. Usually you don't plant it in your garden unless it's in a really controlled spot, a place that's not going to really invade in any other area. So I never grow blackberries in my garden. I know this for sure, having dealt with this. Like working at different gardens, it's not a good idea to bring into a small space unless it's seriously controlled. Like it's like a patch, a garden bed surrounded by concrete and it's not going to spread into another area, or unless it's grown in a container. Raspberries are less aggressive. They're kind of friendlier. And I've grown raspberries before at different gardens and also in the front yard in a controlled spot. Okay, just the traditional ones and also like this golden variety. I love the flavor of raspberries, so good, right? But like, I thought, okay, you know what? I want more raspberries. And I found this variety that just looked really good, super productive and so tasty and tiny. I mean, tiny meaning dwarf. It's not like huge, it doesn't take up too much space, and it came from a really reputable grower. So I was reading the label and it's like, okay, this is well behaved and stuff. I'm like, awesome. Okay, let's do this, you know? Let's get in here. And I decided I'm gonna plant it in my raised beds. It's been over a year. Okay, I planted this just before the pandemic really took over our lives. So it was probably during winter time or something. Like, I don't even remember. During winter time? I don't know. Spring, just right before shelter in place. I got like 2 containers and I actually divided them because they're so tough and they could just take it. There was so much that I was able to make about 6 different plants from just purchasing 2. And I planted it in my raised bed, like over here, over here, over here, and whatever. It really filled out fast and I was so happy about the harvest because it's like wonderful garden snacks. You know, you're gardening and then you're kind of like snacky. And so like you just harvest them and it's so good. All right, so, you know, raspberry season is over and it's just green growth, but it's still growing. It's still expanding. And I'm like, okay, whatever, you know. And at this time, it's kind of like late summer into early fall. And it's all good. You know, I'm growing my tomatoes. I'm like distracted by those things. Meanwhile, like it's doing its own thing while I'm getting distracted by all these awesome summer harvests. By the time summer harvest is done and it's time to turn over the beds for fall, winter veggies, I pull out all the crops. And then I noticed, oh, okay, I see some runners. And when I'm talking about runners, I see some runners kind of popping up in random places. It's kind of like popping up like 1 feet away, 2 feet away from where I planted. the raspberries. So it was like, okay, just one or two. So I kind of like picked them out. I'm like, okay, whatever. You just kind of have to maintain it that way. And I just continued doing my regular thing and turning over the beds and planting like fall and winter veggies again. Obviously got an amazing harvest today, right? I mean, look at this. Isn't this incredible? Everything's growing really well, but you know, as I'm harvesting and also doing succession planting, freaking A, okay? The raspberries, they're running like really far down. They'll be running like 5 feet or 4 feet away from where the plant is. So I'm like investigating and digging and seeing where the shoot is coming from. And literally there's like an underground shoot coming from the original planting all the way down and popping up in various places. And I'm just really worried. So I was like digging out as best as I could during this whole time, during this like late winter, spring. It's just getting more and more aggressive. And you know where they're coming from? They're actually appearing more in the areas that are receiving a lot of moisture. You know, like if you direct seed, like lettuce or arugula or like radishes, and you have to kind of do regular watering, those are the areas that it's popping up at. Those shoots are not developing where the plant is. The plant is already established. I'm not freaking watering it extra, but they're appearing wherever I like direct seed the crop. So this is a major problem. This is so painful to do because I see the buds forming, and there's so many buds right now, but then I see so many shoots coming everywhere. I'm really scared of leaving this plant in, and then it gets to the point where it's out of my control and I can't really manage it or dig out those shoots or weaken them. My biggest fear is that this raspberry is going to actually start popping up outside of the beds, like in the mulch area, or like where the fruit trees are, because it's attracted to water. And it's so hard because it's like, oh my gosh, I could get like a huge crop. I mean, it's so abundant. But at this point, it's like, if it's this aggressive, it's only going to get worse. Because it's running underground and I'm trying to dig it up and I'm not digging up everything, I might actually be exacerbating the problem, multiplying plants. So my plan, it's a very sad plan, I'm like reluctantly doing this. I'm going to take out all the raspberries and put them in containers. I don't think I will get too many raspberry harvests because the plants are going to be in such shock. But at this point, like, I cannot let it run like this. I'm like basically shook, okay? I feel like I'm going to be battling this for like 2 or 3 years. I will show you what this freaking looks like. I feel like crying, okay? Okay, so here's my raspberry, one raspberry plant, and look at all these buds. I mean, it looks super healthy. I don't water this area, but does receive a little bit of irrigation from the drip. But basically, I've been direct seeding arugula for, say, the radishes. So we see a shoot coming, like, around here, kind of near the plant, but it's still not right at the plant. So there's a shoot. And then here's a shoot. There's a shoot over there. There's a shoot right there. Fava beans I have not watered, so it might be okay here. Let's move on to the next bed. My neighbor is playing baseball or something. Here's my raspberry, budding up like crazy, right? And I had all this kale I harvested. There's a shoot here, right? I've been trying to pick it. And then there's a shoot here. There's a shoot here. And it's all coming from that one. So major problem. Let's go up to this bed. This is my last raspberry in here. So many buds. Here's a shoot coming through here. And then here, because I planted this recently. There. Okay, so this side is okay. Oh, here's another raspberry shoot. I cannot accept this, like running like this. Major problem. Really sad. I was going to save these seeds. I don't think I can. I'd basically need to pull most of these plants now. So, huge issue in the garden. I just had to share that. I've made a lot of mistakes in my garden to get to the point where I am, but I keep on making mistakes, and some mistakes are okay. You know, you can deal with it. Sorry, I'm just like attaching this. You can deal with it, but something like this is like seriously kind of like an invasive plant. You know, a lot of people talk about invasive plants and like weeds and all that stuff, but really, when it comes to like weeds, if it's something that spreads one way, usually by seed, it's okay. It's not a huge problem. If it's a weed or like a plant that spreads multiple ways, I'm talking about underground runners, overhead runners, and seed, That is truly invasive. And to me, the raspberry is invasive in this situation. It is spreading in two ways. Gotta get rid of it. Sad days. Sad days. On the flip side, I guess I'll purchase some, large container pots and do new planting. I hope that was informative. Yeah, just be careful about raspberries. Definitely be careful about blackberries. They are very tough and they will colonize. All right, I'm gonna go because I feel like I'm gonna get hit by a ball.